Welcome to the podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time, a KazSource family production. In this episode, we discuss sales activity, saying no, and hot dog stands. Time to take 5 with Mitch Long. We all have conversations in our business every day. At KazSource, we want to bring these conversations to you as we believe they can help any business owner or entrepreneur. Who better to talk to than the activity monster himself, Mitch Long? We want to get deep into sales with this episode, and Mitch is a born salesperson. He is also one of the most genuine people you will meet. Being genuine in sales will take you far, so we bring the resident expert on genuine sales to this podcast. Mitch is a repeat guest on the show, and after this episode, I think it is time we sign up Mitch for more episodes. You'll hear Mitch and I discuss these 5 topics: sales activity, building trust, overcoming a bad month, creating content, and saying no. And then get ready for a new wave of rapid fire questions. All right, let's bring in the activity monster, Mitch Long. All right, so we really like these freestyle episodes we've been doing, a little bit more unscripted, and what we want to do is take conversations that we're having both internally at our group, but also externally with our clients and just people we deal with on a daily basis. And because we like these so much, we want to make sure we bring to you the different people that in our group that are just have a lot of great things to say. And Mitch is on with us today. Mitch has a lot to say, has a lot of great stories. He's been on our podcast before. And so, Mitch, welcome again to the Entrepreneur Perspectives podcast. How's it going?
Looking forward to it. I'm excited.
It's awesome. So, as I understand it, Mitch, right now you live in Greensboro, and I know you live in Greensboro. We all know that. But you are traveling from Greensboro to Burlington, North Carolina. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. So, the first thing that I want to get going with today is activity, because you and I talk about activity all the time, and we're talking about in any business that you're in, activity is important, especially if you are in some sort of sales position. And activity is what it's all about, right? It's we relate it to sports, which like we do on Sportsepreneur. How many at bats did you get? The more at bats you get, the more chances you have of hitting that home run or getting that big play. So here's Mitch, and we're recording a podcast, and he's doing this while he's driving from Greensboro to Burlington, I'm assuming to see clients or prospects or what have you. But Mitch, talk to us a little bit about, because you are an activity monster, as I like to say. I mean, you don't stop. If you are not active in your business and just seeing people, sometimes it feels like you're being unproductive. Like, how does that feel for you, who's someone who's been in sales, has been in the eat what you kill mentality basically your whole career?
Well, I think, for me, it's being in the action. And, you can do certain things. I've always been a face-to-face guy. And so, I've always liked to be able to be in front of people and read people and say, hey, are you understanding what I'm saying? Do you care about what I'm saying? Are you watching TV? And so I've always been a face-to-face guy, and I think the communication to me is always better. And so one of the things I've done in my practice is just to stay in front of the agents and by extension, staying in front of clients. Everybody can send an email, and I think email and social media play a big role in what we're doing today. And, we've talked about a lot together, but there's still nothing that replaces being in front of somebody. And so, I try to be out. I mean, I usually in the morning spend a couple of hours working on, things I need to do on my computer, but then the rest of the day, I'm trying to be out in front of people. And it's amazing what you can get into just by saying, I'm going to walk into that agent and I'm going to go talk about buy-sell agreements or key man insurance or long-term care. And how many times over the years have I gone in and done that? And somebody says, hey, I just had a guy that asked me about that yesterday. Well, if I hadn't been there, he probably would have never thought about it again. But because I walked in and mentioned it, he goes, you need to talk to this client of mine. And so I'm a big believer in being in front of the agents as well as touching them with social media and emails as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about being top of mind, and, if you're not there, you don't have that opportunity to have the at-bat that I was kind of getting to earlier. And what I also like is you're talking about, utilizing social media, utilizing the phone, utilizing email. These are all tools, right? It's all things that can get you in front of clients and get you the activity that you need. It can set your activity up. You can meet people you otherwise wouldn't have been able to meet. We talk a lot about that on as social media is concerned. I mean, we make relationships with clients, and I think sometimes I'm like, man, I never would have met this person if it wasn't for social media. But the sale doesn't happen on social media. Yeah, there's some businesses, and you can create if you're creating cloud storage, for example, you can make the sale on social media and take them to a link that takes them to the website, and they sign up and off they go and they pay their $10 a month. That's great. And that's not the business a lot of people that we're dealing with are in. And if you are, that's great too. But the point is, you now need to take it to that next level, and that is possibly to the phone, and like you're saying, to the meeting, to the face-to-face conversation, to have that back and forth. And that's when it's not even the sale, that's when the connection happens, that's when the relationship happens. Is that right? I mean, you're obviously saying the same exact thing.
Absolutely. And I send out a lot of information on email. I try to keep it to a minimum. I don't do something every day because I think people can get desensitized to emails or social media, because if they see everything too much, then they just ignore it. I got people that send me emails every day, and I just sort of ignore them. But if I send something once a month or once every 2 or 3 weeks, I do an email out to my agents about some concept and saying, hey, these are the sales we're seeing. Who do you have that fits this mold? We try to create a little anxiety because, what I tell them, for example, about long-term care, I say, your clients are buying long-term care from somebody. It ought to be you. And if the person that sells them long-term care is also a financial planner or a property and casualty agent, what's their next question? Hey, let me take a look at your home and auto. Let me take a look at your financial plan, and there goes your client. So, so I do a lot of that, and then what I do is follow that up with, and sometimes you send out those blast emails, and I get 2 or 3 emails back. Hey, I need a quote. I need this. But sometimes you think, hey, nobody's even reading this. But then when I go around and see my agents, they'll say, man, that was a really good piece you sent out this morning. I really like that. Can you get me something on this or get me something on that? And then you're starting the conversation. So I think, every touch of the agent is, if you think about it being a soup, if I'm trying to get potatoes to the top, stirring the pot is what that is.
Yep. Yeah, and like you said, though, you don't want to overdo it. We've had some good content come our way, but it was mixed in with a lot of bad content by that same person. And I'll ask Shane in our office, and I say, hey, Shane, did you see that email from this person? He's like, no, I haven't. And then we look for it, and it's in spam. And the reason it's in spam is because they've been hit so many times by that person. And it's just then you've watered it down, like you said. So with your soup analogy, you've just put too much water in it. It doesn't taste good anymore, and no one's gonna want it. No one's gonna want that. So like you're saying, you want a lot of at bats, but that doesn't mean you should just consistently hit that same person over and over and over again, repetitively, with lack of content, lack of good content, quality content. But you do need to hit them with, maybe touch them with an email, maybe a phone call, a drop into the office here and there, and staying active. And if you're seeing enough people, you shouldn't be seeing the same person over and over again like you're doing, right? So you're in Greensboro this morning, getting your stuff done. We've actually talked about your morning routine in a blog post. We can put that in the show notes here. And then you're off to Burlington. And then after Burlington, where are you going after that?
Lexington.
So, how long of a drive is Burlington to Lexington?
About 45 minutes.
Okay. So you hit up the state. I mean, I don't know if you do go west. So just for people, if they're not here in North Carolina, so we have Charlotte, North Carolina, which is kind of like south in the state. And then you go Greensboro. And Greensboro's, you can kind of get to a lot of different places, I feel like, from Greensboro. It's a good, centering point.
Yeah, it's central North Carolina. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to Raleigh. I've even got some clients down in Jacksonville. And then Statesville, Mooresville, Charlotte. Not too much further west than that, a little bit of Hickory.
Yeah. Didn't you once have...
Yeah, we're covering
it all. And that's just North Carolina. It doesn't even get into South Carolina, or then just clients that we have all over the country. I mean, we have clients in Salt Lake City, Texas, California, Ohio, New York, up in New England area.
Yeah, Virginia. I was on the phone with an agent from Virginia last night.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So you were, I don't exactly know where you were, and we had seen each other, and maybe I had met you in Greensboro, but you had to go to Chapel Hill, And after Chapel Hill, you had to run back, and I feel like you even had to drop something off at your son's school. This might have been like 2 years ago. And so you were in Chapel Hill. You might have been in Raleigh that day. Then you had to go back to Greensboro. Maybe we met in Charlotte, like North Charlotte at one point. Yeah. So you're like, you hit 3 or 4 cities before lunchtime.
Right. Yep. No, that's, it's funny because people say, don't you get tired? I don't see how you do what you do. But to me, the worst thing, the thing I'll get the most tired is sitting at a desk and if I could be out, I mean, it actually energizes me. And so, some days, I go down to Jacksonville, and that's a good 3-hour drive down and 3-hour drive back. And those days get a little bit long, but I'm usually on the phone all the way down there, on the phone all the way back, trying to do something. And a lot of times I don't even notice it. You're kind of out where the action is. And somebody told me when I first got into business, nobody's going to drive by your house and ask for life insurance. So you can't sell life insurance from home. I mean, you got to be out in the fields and being in front of people. And that's where I think we make the difference is our clients, our agents, our financial planners, they're getting information from tons of different brokers. But there's not too many of them that are showing up and saying, hey, I'm here. And you develop that relationship with them. You get to know them, you know their families, you go out to dinner or lunch with them. Sometimes just one lunch with an agent creates a bond that's another broker can't break.
Yeah, and that it leads into this topic, which is one of the topics I want to kind of touch on at the end, but I think it's just better here is the trust part. And that's in everything that you do, whether that's, we talk a lot about content marketing, you have to build trust with your clients. You can't just come on, if we go to social media, just as an example, you can't go on Facebook and say, we sell this, so call me at this number and we're ready to sell you something. And if people are like, I don't want that, I don't trust that. These relationships, Mitch, that you're talking about have been developed over many years and many lunches and many drop-ins and many emails. And this thing just goes on and on. It wasn't like you just showed up one day to this guy's office and he let you have his clients, or start working on his book of business, right? I mean, this took time. Overnight success, right? A 20-year overnight success, as you say.
That's it, yeah. And, a lot of hard work goes into that. And, one of my biggest agencies now is an agency that was using somebody else for years. And, I mean, they were right down the street from my house, and I would go by there every day going home, and I'd go, I can't believe that this big agency, one of the biggest agencies in North Carolina, is not working with me. But, being stubborn like I am, I kept going by there. I kept leaving stuff. I kept showing up. And, they had one guy that was doing the life insurance, and he was pretty dedicated to this other broker, which I understand. Well, he left. I mean, I walked in there one day. They said, yeah, he resigned. And then all of a sudden they're working with me.
Yeah. And
since that time, they've broken all their brokerage relationships for the business we do. And so, there's a little bit of being stubborn and trying to stay in front of people. Like you said, you say, wow, that guy's an overnight success, and they don't know the years that went into that.
Right. And it's that trust that you had to build. You had to keep showing up, and because you showed up, because you did all the right things and continue, that's the other thing. You see a lot of corporations, they're always going for new business. Like you see it with cell phones or TV, cable companies, and they're always looking for the new. If you sign up with us now, we'll give you a free month. But it's like, well, what about all the customers that you have already? They didn't get anything. Right. So you have to continue doing the good things that you said that you did at the beginning and that you said you would do. So you have to continue to follow through on it. But once you do that, you're now not for life, but you have a long-term relationship that you can do a lot of different things with, and they can do a lot of different things with you.
For that agency that we just talked about, I mean, a prime example of that is about 5 years ago, we did a term case that was just for collaterally assigned insurance for a bank loan this business was getting. 5 years later, the client called me directly, not the agency, but called me directly and said, hey, we need to get some permanent life to fund a trust. Well, that's a $25,000 premium. And so you talk about fun when you can walk back into your agency and say, hey, you didn't know anything about this, but your client that we did business with 5 years ago just called me, and here's a $25,000 sale that you knew nothing about. And then you become a key part of the business. And So, and so now when I walk in there, I never slow down at the front desk. I mean, I just go back. They even had let me have the security codes to get in the building. I can go in the different parts of the building because I'm become part of their staff, and they think of me that way.
That's true.
So
that's the ultimate trust, right?
It.
They're letting you go in whenever you want, and that's what we're talking about. We see it all the time, right? And it's hard, and we understand. We're not trying to say if someone can't make it in sales or in this position, or if it doesn't matter the industry. Mitch, you're talking a lot about life insurance. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It is, you have to have that trust. You can't just sit back and expect these, like you just said, expect these people to come to you and build this business. You have to build that trust part up, and it takes time. Well, but we've seen the salespeople.
An old boss of mine.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, an old boss of mine used to say, your goal is to become part of the furniture. You would say, well, we've got a couch and a desk, and we got Mitch. And so that's what the goal is say, hey, I'm part of the team. And whenever, I use the word we a lot instead of saying you guys didn't do this or you guys didn't do that. So, hey, we need to do this. So you're part of the team, just like we talk about football a lot. But, it's, like Tom Brady and whether you like the Patriots or not, the guy's certainly successful. But, if they have a bad game, he doesn't say the defense didn't play well or the special teams didn't play well or my receivers dropped the ball. He says, we didn't play well, as a team. And so that's what your goal is, to become part of that team.
Yeah, so you had to do that. You had to go to Tom Brady already, huh?
That's it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's
neither
okay.
One of us.
Well, we didn't really have it. You're a Steelers fan, and you didn't even get a chance to play those guys. That would have been that was the game we wanted, but Jacksonville almost took care of them for you. But
actually, I was playing for 3 quarters. They did.
Yeah, but then they didn't, and so in the fourth quarter, it was like that would be similar. And we have Shane who was talking to you. So Shane in our office was talking to you, and I think you guys had a conversation. It got him all excited. So he was agreeing with you, and he wrote an article about the topic of, you're doing all of these things. It would be like you, Mitch, going forward in your business and doing all the things that you've just talked about in this podcast already, and taking the activity and sending the emails and building these relationships and building the trust, right? And then saying, you know what? It's not working right now. I'm having a bad month. I'm having a bad few weeks. Like, things just aren't going your way. And it's like, I'm going to stop what's worked for me for 20 years, and I'm now going to do something else. Now, I'm not saying don't ever change your business model. Don't ever, and we'll get into that part of it too. But Jacksonville was doing everything right for mostly 3 quarters, right? And then they changed their blitz schemes. They started playing a zone coverage when they had this incredible man-to-man coverage going that New England couldn't beat. And what happened? They lost the game as a result of it. Now, there's other things that took place, but wouldn't it be like you saying, I'm going to change everything that I'm doing, and I'm going to go now play this prevent defense in business. You can't really play prevent defense, right? But isn't that I don't know. You tell me, because you've been doing this for a long time. Doesn't that seem crazy?
It does. And the thing is, I was just thinking as you were saying that, play to win, not to lose. And, Jacksonville played to win for 3 quarters. And then in the 4th quarter, they played not to lose, and they lost. And that's what happens. And, we always joke around and say prevent defense prevents you from winning. You play to win. And so if you're having a bad month, that doesn't mean that what you're doing is wrong. And, again, a former boss that I've got a lot of respect for, the first day that I started working for him, he gave me this book that was written by a very successful sales guy. And they asked him when he retired to write this book about what he did. And it was a track. It was a track to run on. And so, and what he told me, because when you're in sales, there's a lot of self-doubt. I mean, you're saying, I'm working my tail off and I'm not making any sales, or I'm working my tail off and I'm not getting things coming to conclusion. But if you're doing the right thing, then it will happen. And you've got to believe that. And whether it's a good month or a bad month, I mean, I've tried really hard to make my business really consistent, to have this many sales per month and this many cases getting placed and paid per month. And I don't care how hard you do it, it comes in bunches. And so I have times where, like in December, everything was gold and everybody wanted to give me money as fast as I could get to them. But then you have times when you're still doing the right things and you're working just as hard, and yet, it's not coming to fruition. But at the same time, you've got to keep going, because you keep working and it will happen.
Yeah. And that's, so like when you get in the psychological aspect of it, it's hard, right? Like if you're having and we talk about this all the time, and you know it from being in business for so long, that you're going to have bad days, bad weeks, bad months, bad years, right? And it just, I mean, and we might run a string of them together, and it's just like, man, I should just go work at Walmart now. And I think you've made that joke before. And I said, Mitch, if you're working at Walmart, you just have to give me the phone. You got to give me the call, give me the courtesy so we can come and see you. Anyway, it's hard though, like, because you get in that mentality and you're like, or you said, I'm going to open up a hot dog stand because this is just ridiculous right now. And there's a lot of people that are involved in no matter what business you're in, and insurance is certainly one of them, where there's like 5 to 20 people that are involved in a deal. You have the insurance carrier, you have the examiner, you have all these different things going on, and one person that you have no control over whatsoever can blow that deal. And that's a problem in that industry in and of itself. But psychologically, it's like you finish your day, you feel like you've just been banging your head against the wall, nothing's working. Let's go back to the football analogy. So we've kind of beat up on the Jaguars, but it's like any team. And we, running the football a lot, and it's a different league. Football's a different sport now in many ways. It's a passing league. But running the football is, and I feel like should always be important unless they change the rules. But it's like if you hand the ball off, it's like Barry Sanders, hand the ball off 1 yard, hand the ball off -1 yard, hand the ball off 0 yards. And it's like, why are we going to continue to bang our head against the wall? This is demoralizing. We can't do it. We can't beat them. But like, isn't that part of it? Like, you just have to keep doing those things because eventually you might break that 50-yard run?
Well, that's it, and that's the epitome of Barry Sanders, because Barry Sanders would look bad on 2 plays and then break it for 60, and that's the thing, is eventually you knew that was going to happen, and I was even again back to the Patriot Jacksonville game, that they were talking about, that how could things change, and I think Jacksonville changed their defense, but at the same time they said, in the fourth quarter those defensive linemen that were getting off the line quick are tired, so they're just a second or 2 slower. And the secondary guys have been running all over the field and knocking passes down, but now they're just a little bit slower because they're tired. And that's when a guy like Tom Brady is going to shine, because he's going to start completing passes that he didn't have time to complete in the first half. And so you just have to keep going. And I think that's the thing, is what I do a lot when it gets really slow is I just, I've got my agent saved in my phone, and I'll just start running down the list and calling, going, what are you doing? What are you working on? Do you have any business clients? Tell me about your biggest case recently. And I swear to you, I won't get halfway through my call list, and then I'll be so busy I got to stop doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just strange how that happens, is that if you stay active, then good things are going to happen. And it is hard, because it's, you want things to go well all the time, but it does. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But back to, if you're doing the right things, then it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you're building up your endurance too, it sounds like. Like you said, if you go drive to Jacksonville, North Carolina, and it's a 3-hour drive for you, but you're on the phone the whole way, that's tiring. I mean, like you said, it's a long day. And not only that, if you are on the phone the whole day, that takes a lot out of you. And I agree with you. I'll drive down to Charleston, South Carolina, and I'll be on the phone, and it's like, ooh, that was like a full day. You drive 3 hours, you're on the phone for, let's say, 2.5 hours of it. You're kind of beat up. But the more you do it, just like the more times you go for a run, the more times you play pickup basketball, the more your body can handle it. The more and then maybe this is not as physical endurance that we're talking about, it's the mental aspect, more mentally, that you can get through that day and say, you know what, I have had a bad week, but I'm going to get back on the phone. I'm going to go see these people. Yeah, it seems daunting right now. It's dark out. It's cold out, especially now when we're recording this. It's in January. The weather's all over the place. But if you just keep doing it and showing up, right, that's half the battle. And then let everything else play itself out.
Well, that's what I tell. I've got a son that's getting ready to go to college, and 2 daughters that have gone to college, and the thing I've always told my son is, man, go to class. We'll do whatever you want to do, have a good time in college, but go to class, and because that's half the battle. And I remember teachers in college who you could read the book all day long, but if you weren't in the class, you missed half the course. And so you might get a 50 on the test because you read the book, but you didn't listen to the lectures. And so, you got to show up. and you got to be out there doing it every day. And if you do, you'll be successful.
Well, that's funny too. So early on in one of our first podcasts, we talked to Spencer Smith. He played college football at the University of Hawaii, and he talked about how he wasn't the smartest guy in the room. He never pretended to be the smartest guy in the room, but he would work harder than anybody. And he said he never understood athletes in college complaining about going to class. He's like, it's the easiest thing in the world. All you have to do is show up. And if you show that you care, right? So if you show the professor and you show the school that you actually do care about what you're doing, they're going to take a liking to you, first of all. And that's no different than showing up to a client's office. They're going to take a liking to you if you're doing it the right way, right? And we're obviously assuming that you're being genuine with what you're doing. But if you simply just show up to class, you're already ahead of the game versus complaining and not showing up to class. I saw the same thing when I was in college. You know, people not going to class. And yeah, some days it was like, man, I cannot believe I have to do it. But it was like, this is easy because if you think about it, it's like how many classes in college we're talking about? How many classes do you even have a day where you just that's all you have to do? Like you have so much time to have fun and do everything else. It's just amazing to me. Now looking back at it, it seems even easier. Say, well, you went to class 2 different times, or John Priori, who's his last semester at Western Carolina. And, you know, he talks about his schedule, and it's like, it's easy to show up. Just show up. And like off you go. And that's what he's doing now. So here's a guy who's just getting started, and he's telling me, he's like, I can talk to more people. He's like, because I have this long walk between from getting out of class and getting in my car. So he's having phone conversations with people in business, helping them out with their social media, giving them ideas, just talking, right? And he's using his time, his productivity, because he's got time. So like you said, showing up, it's good advice for a lot of people. What's also interesting, and I've always told you, this is funny, that you would be texting and emailing from the car. Now, we're not going to say that you're texting while driving, but maybe you are. I don't know. And I always said, we need you, Mitch. Like, don't drive into a tree. That would be really bad, and we all know how dangerous that can be. But you don't have tons of time because you are so busy. But you have such great stories, and we've covered a lot, whether it's talking about Barry Sanders or the football game, or just showing up, or the advice that you would give to your kids, or advice that you would give to salespeople in any business. And this is all what we call content. This podcast is content. You're taking your time out. Creating content was a little bit, you've always done it, right? You sent emails out, you would take your time, and you would sit down in the morning, and you would send emails to clients or prospects. So you've been creating content, but kind of taking it to where we are in our business of helping businesses out with their content marketing, creating these stories. What was that like for you, someone who's been in the business a long time, had done it a certain way? You told this, you know, I'll let you tell this, but you told the story of having to roll a quarter, stopping off, and then we wrote an article about you telling that story. So a lot of business owners or people that we talk to, financial advisors, are like, I don't have time to do it. I don't know how to do it. What was that journey for you like, of like, here I am telling you, Mitch, I want to tell your story more?
Well, you know, and I guess, you know, I'm a guy that kind of talks in parables anyway. And so I like I connect with people, I think, with stories. And, you know, you called me storyteller on the social media, but I think, you know, giving people relevant stories that they can connect to, and it's everyday things, you know, and I think what we do is really important. You know, when you can say, you know, I've got 3 clients right now on long-term care claim who are living in their homes because they bought this long-term care policy for me 15 years ago. That's strong. I mean, that's a strong story to tell. That's something that people can relate to. You know, it's something that, you know, if we can share that with an agent, and help them have that story to tell. And, you know, part of the problem is everybody's busy. I mean, that's something I hear a lot is, I'm so busy. But if you can help them with the content of what's getting out to their clients and having good stories to tell that connect with people, then that's when people are going to come back to you. That's when people are going to say, you know, I need your help. You know, I need to plan for that. I need to plan for my life insurance. And if you've ever paid a death claim, and I've paid a bunch, when you go in there and you know, you're the only, somebody told me this before, but, you know, we're the only people that are walking in with money. Everybody else is asking for money. The funeral home's asking for money. The creditors are asking for money. We're walking in with money and saying, here's the solution to those problems. And And so, to have that content that has meaning, and that's one thing that I think you've emphasized is, we see some people's social media websites, Facebook pages, or whatever, and they're just not quality. It's not stuff that's going to resonate with their clients. So it took, you challenged me to write those articles, and I actually kind of enjoyed it, and being able to provide something that hopefully connects with people.
Yeah, and so in many ways you were giving back because you were telling stories of the way it was and how you've adapted and how you can, create a routine for yourself. You had a story about college basketball, about how college basketball has lost its heart. You compared it to business. And these are all articles we've helped you with. I mean, these are your ideas. Like, we were just taking all the different things that you had said or given us a couple pieces of notes on while you were driving. You'd send us a text real quick and say, like, here are the 3 points that I would hit on. And these are, since we've talked so many times, we understand what your voice is. We can put that into text, or we can put it into, say, hey, let's get on a podcast and let's tell that story. Because one thing you don't have is time, right? You're helping create time for your agents. You have time that you have to spend yourself, whether it's your business or your family. And then that's a thing business owners struggle with. And I think that's served us well.
Well, I think that's what we can do for business owners and for, the people that we work with, is to say, let us help you tell your story. And you tell us your story, because everybody's got a story and everybody's doing what they do for a reason. Most people are not just doing it for the money. I mean, everybody needs to make money. I get that. But most people believe in what they're doing, and there's some pride in what they're doing. And so, what we're good at, and I think particularly, the group that we have on the social media, is we're very good at making your story and writing your story for you and getting it out there without you having to take the time away from what you're doing every day. So I think we've got a real opportunity there as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that derived from, and I'm not going to get into the whole backstory of it, but when in insurance we talk about this. You had said before, if you're not selling life insurance to your clients, let's say it's a P&C agency or a bank, if you're not talking to your clients about life insurance, someone else is. But you don't have the time to say, okay, well then I'll go sell life insurance to my clients. Like, you can't create more hours in the day. You're already swamped. So what we became for many years and still are is the fact that we can be that time for you. You can't add more hours in the day, but you can add a person to your team that can take that time. Now, you can go pay that person a salary, which becomes a problem for a business owner, right? They don't want to give up. And in order to find someone of quality, you're going to have to pay them a lot of money or give them a big share of the commission. Or you can partner with a group and bring them on, and they can be that added resource for you at a non-overhead expense, right? That's no different than on the content side. So it's a completely different business, right? But the idea is the same. It's, I need someone who knows how to do this, so they have to have the know-how, and they also have the time, because I don't have the time. So even if, because a lot of business owners we talked to, I said, if you took the time and wanted to learn it, you could learn it. Very smart person. You're very strategic in what you're doing. But and then they say, well, yes, I could, but I don't have the time to do it. So that's the other part of it that relates to what we do on the insurance side, is the time. And that's in any business. That's me at home. It's like, yeah, could I mow my lawn? Probably. My wife would be like, you'd probably do a terrible job of it. And I think I tried it once. I'm like, I sold it within like 4 months, because I was like, I want to spend time with my family. I want to do these things. I want to watch the games. I want to go outside. Like, whatever that is, I don't want to mow the lawn. So I will hire someone to mow the lawn, because it's like, that's not worth my time. I'm going to find someone, pay them money that I earn, and then they can go and do it. That makes me more productive in whatever it is I'm trying to do. It's no different in the insurance, the content marketing, or any type of business that you're in. That's how I think people can create sales, is when you not just sell the product, but like, where does that come from, right? Like, how can you save them something, whether it's time, or save them money, or save them, or give them knowledge they never ever had.
That's it. And with the social media, I mean, the younger generation, it's amazing. I mean, they're very technologically savvy. They're looking for things on their buying habits are to go on the internet and Google it and look it up or let me read about your content page. If I'm going to an agency, I want to see what your social media says, your Facebook page, your Twitter account. So those are things that, we've got to get in that market. And even some of us older guys, I'm 53, you're a lot younger than me, but, that's the way that the newer generation is buying. and they're used to it. We have so many companies now that are even delivering policies electronically. The younger generation loves that. They absolutely love it, and it's the way that they want to do business. And so, if you're a business owner and you don't have quality content on your Twitter or Facebook page or whatever it may be, then you're a step behind. So.
Yeah, and people are. We've seen this before. We've asked questions. When people click on a website and then they go to the social media icons that are always there, not always, but mostly there, and they click on it, you can tell a lot just by that. We've seen some significant companies, and I'm not going to call out any names. I've seen significant companies. I've seen small businesses, and they were pretending because you would click on, let's say, the LinkedIn link or the Instagram link or whatever, and it was broken. It wasn't even working. Or you would click over there and there was nothing there, or the last time they updated it was 4 months ago or 3 years ago. So it's like people see that and they see right through it and they're like, are you just pretending and like saying that you are part of this thing? And because here's the thing, maybe the way to go is go the opposite direction, say, I'm not going to do any social media, I'm not going to do any content marketing, and that's fine. But then play that side of it. So there's no absolute way to do it.
If you're not going to do it well,
right.
Don't do it.
And you could have that standpoint, like, we will not do this because this is the business was founded on these ideas and we want to stick with it. And hey, you have a story to tell based off of that. You're in a way, if you did it that way, you actually are telling a story. So you are doing content marketing. You're just doing it in a more polarizing way, which I think is great too. So there's just a lot of different ways to do it, but have to have an idea behind why you're doing all these different things. So now, saying all that, right? So you're busy, you're traveling, you're on the road, you're going to go see clients, they're going to create work for you, you're developing content, you're on this podcast, all these different things are going on. When do you say no? When do you say, like, I can't do it? No, Eric, I can't do the podcast tomorrow because I don't have the time. And I'm not saying you wouldn't say no to me, but not kidding. But like, when is enough? You say, I can't work on this stuff, because sometimes you've told me these stories, Mitch. You'll try to help someone out, and then they're non-responsive back to you. So at some point, there has to be a no in there. Talk about that.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I've had to develop. I think that I like helping people, and so there's a part of me that and I do some things. Like, one of our agents that there in Charlotte actually had a client call me, and the gentleman had two old policies that were bought in 1941 on his wife. And, he was trying to find the company that those were written through and get information about the policies. Well, that's not necessarily a sale for us, but there's part of me that says, hey, I want to help that person. And I think it feeds back, because that agent's going to know at some point that I helped that client that didn't make me any money, but that's how you build that relationship. But on the other hand, people can waste your time. And so, what I've tried to do is, we have value, and what we do is very valuable. And so you want to be working with the people that consider that valuable. And at some point, if the client or the agent is not bought into what we're doing, then you have to say, I'd love to help you, but you're not committed. And you don't say that to them, but you just have to say, it's time for me to move on, because I've got other people waiting that want what I need and value what I do. And you just have to do that. And it's ironic. I mean, some of the biggest cases I've done, the people are responsive and quick and wanting to get it done as fast as possible. And then you have other folks who it's the smallest case, and the decision ought to be pretty easy, and they're agonizing over it. And at some point, you've got to say, I'd love to help you. Let me know when you're ready, but I've got to move on. And you just have to manage your business that way, because if not, you can drive yourself crazy feeling like you worked all day and didn't get anything done.
Yep, and you have missed opportunities as a result, because those clients that you spend so much time with, they're trying to get a hold of you. You're tied up because you're chasing something that's never going to come to fruition. And it's hard, right? Early on, we've all seen it. We've seen salespeople in our group and other groups that they get excited early and they think they have something and miss some cues early on that this wasn't going to be what they thought it was going to be. And I mean, we're all guilty of that. And I think over time you get better, you get experience. Like you're talking about, I hate to keep bringing up Tom Brady and giving him credit, right? But sometimes you have to. And it's like, you've seen it before. Like we were texting during that game, and we were both saying that they got a real chance here. And then there was like you know what? They don't, because they're not ready for this moment. New England's been there before. They understand what it's going to take. They understand what's happening here. They have the experience the other one does. Like, again, maybe it's like a far-stretched analogy we're trying to create, but it's like you have to have that intuition of knowing what are the things that you need to do to make something happen or to move on to something different. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever, but I think that's a big part of it, and just being around the block a lot of different times. I think when we're younger, we think we know it all, and then as we kind of get going more in our career, you've seen a lot of different things. We've seen the agents that told us they were going to be the biggest client of ours, and then they never produced a single piece of business ever. And then they're on their seventh business continuing to look for it. You just have to know what those people tend to act like, right?
Well, what I do is, it's learning your client and learning the referral that you're getting. And so, sometimes, anybody that sends me an email and says, hey, would you call this client? I will. But, for example, but I'm not going to spend as much time on somebody if somebody says, in the insurance world, if I want $100,000 of 30-year term and I'm 35 years old and it's $25 a month, I'm more than happy to give you a quote. But we've got to do it now. I can't spend the next week agonizing over that $25 per month premium. I've got other cases that I've got to get to that are much larger. But if you'll come on and do it, then absolutely we're going to do it. But I'm not going to necessarily call that person back. They've got to call me so that I know they've got skin in the game. There was a NAFA president. In fact, he might have been a former president of the NAFA chapter in Charlotte. But, he talked about how he ran his practice, which was really interesting. And he said, when I sit down with a client, he said, the first thing that I tell them when they sit down is I say, I'm going to try to give you the information that you need to make a decision today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. And he said, if you tell me no, that is perfectly fine. I'm not going to call you back. I'm not going to follow up with you in 6 months. If you tell me I want to think about it, I'm not going to call you back. I'm not going to call you in 6 months. I'm going to hear no. And so he said, that's pretty bold. I mean, he even said that in the meeting. That's a pretty bold way to run your business. But he said, what ends up happening is I'm only working with the people that are serious, because either they're making a decision today or they're calling me back and saying, I want it. And they're not wasting my time. And so that's pretty, and that hit home to me. And I said, you're, without being rude, I'm not trying to say you should be rude. Without being rude, you do want to end up with working with the people that want what you have, and you don't want to work with the people that don't. And so it's a learned trait. It's something you got to learn how to do. But I think it's something we all can do better.
Well, it keeps your sanity too, right? And we've all had clients, and that's a great point you bring up, Mitch. We've all had clients that when the phone call comes through or you see the email, you get tense, and it's not fun. And sometimes you're like, but I have to take it because this is one of my better clients. And once you start realizing that wasn't worth it, it wasn't worth the stress and the anxiety that you had to deal with that person, because they weren't adding to your day. They weren't, filling you up with something that was good. They're just kind of draining you for everything that you were worth. It's not worth it. And I speak this from experience. I know you do too. And like you said, it's just better to work with the people, because a lot of it comes down to why do you do what you do? You said before, we all have to make money, right? We're all in business. We want to generate a profit, create revenue, all that great stuff. But you have to enjoy it. And I think once you do believe in what you are doing, then you want to work with people that see it as well. And we truly want to help. We love talking to business owners, entrepreneurs, I love to call them, right? I love helping other business owners. I don't care if I don't get anything from that. If I can help a business owner, no matter what level they're at, maybe it's thinking through a strategy. Maybe it's selling them life insurance, because sometimes that's what they need, right? Maybe it's talking about content marketing. I don't know what it is, or helping their business systems. And we've helped people set up their email servers, right? Because we have the expertise and the knowledge to do that. So why can't we help them in that business? We do business services, business valuations. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as we can help them out. And sometimes we don't even bill for that. A lot of times we do, because they're like, hey, how much does this cost? We would love to write you a check for it. But it has to be with the people that you enjoy working with, and the feeling is mutual. And it's not about those people that just want to work you over and want to make your day miserable, right? I mean, so
Yep.
yeah, we're preaching on it now, and I know you feel the same way because it's just, you told me before, like, I got to call this person back, and this is not the person that's helping you out.
Well, I think there's a way to show everybody respect, but at the same time, manage your time and spend the time on the ones that are going to be the most, profitable, and that's something you got to keep in mind. But also the most successful, and that you can really help. And there's nothing better to me. I mean, I mention long-term care a lot, but I know the long-term care market. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's not bragging. It's just I know it. It makes sense to me. So when I sit down in front of somebody and they want to know about long-term care, I'm getting ready to blow them away because I know it, and I know how to help them, and I know I can listen to them and see how they want to solve that problem. So, and it's something I believe in, and so it's easy to sell something that you believe in because it comes across that you believe in it. And so, but you just have to be able to manage that time. And like I said, what we do has value, and you want to spend that value on the people that want that value.
I agree. This podcast is brought to you by KazCM. KazCM helps you, the entrepreneur, engage with your audience like never before. Most entrepreneurs need help developing business, so that's what we do, business development. We offer you the same techniques that have worked for us. We start with content marketing, which includes storytelling, knowledge sharing, thought leadership, and branding through blogs, podcasts, videos, social media, and personal engagement. This leads to opportunities and relationships for you and your business. What else do you get? A content platform asset that will serve you now and in the future as your industry changes. Why do we do this? Because at KazCM, we love helping entrepreneurs build stuff. That's good, Mitch. So what we did is we didn't label the questions 1 through 5, but we just covered 5 topics, and I want to do more of these types of conversations. I think these are good because, like I said at the very beginning, these are conversations that you and I are having. People in our business are having. We're having these conversations with other business owners. So, as we talk about entrepreneur perspectives, it's like, what are the different perspectives we have? What does Mitch have? How can we help other business owners? That is what this podcast is all about. How can we help other business owners, entrepreneurs think through different ways of doing business and living life and everything else that goes on. What we do, though, what we love to do is ask kind of rapid fire questions. And Mitch, you have no idea what these questions are. We did this before. Your first time you're on, this is like one of the first few episodes. And, I've been thinking through this and gotten some ideas from other people. And I think we might adapt these questions as we go. But I wanted you to be the first one to kind of answer these quick questions. These are not hard questions. These are things that you should know about yourself kind of right off the bat. We'll just roll through them and then we'll finish off. Does that sound good?
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. So what is your favorite exercise to do?
Favorite exercise?
Like, I'm saying, like, do you like to run? Maybe I should ask that a better way. Do you like to run? Do you like to go to the gym and lift weights? Like something more general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the gym every day, so it's between. I like to run probably the best, but as I've gotten older, I've had to mix some other things in. So Stairmaster, the bicycle, and then weightlifting.
Okay, so I know you're busy. You're rolling around. You got to stay awake. How many cups of coffee do you have a day?
I try to limit that. So usually 3 or 4 in the morning usually I hit the coffee place that I go to every morning and usually have 3 or 4 cups of coffee while I'm there working on some stuff. And then after lunch, I'm trying not to drink any more coffee.
Drink a lot of water. There you go. So, all right, so we know you travel all over North Carolina. You've been to every city, probably every town and every village, right? What is your favorite city in the state of North Carolina?
I like Mooresville up there in the Lake Norman area. It's just a really cool town. It's got a lot of new growth around the lake, so there's a lot of things going on up there. It's really becoming a suburb of Charlotte. But I really like the downtown side, too, because they have the old traditional downtown, and they've managed that really well, so they've got a cool downtown as well. Okay.
So my kids have asked me this one, and they said, when you do your podcast, Dad, you got to start asking this question. And when they said it, I was like, and I think my daughter, Aaliyah, was the first one to mention this. The question is, if you weren't in this job, what job would you want to do?
Wow.
That's a tougher one. It's more of an off the cuff, and it doesn't mean anything. It could be Walmart. Hey.
Yeah, I think it's back to the hot dog stand, that sort of, where, the hardest decision people have to make is, do you want mustard and pickles or relish on your hot dog? And everybody's happy, or a beer distributor, because everybody's happy to see you.
That's right. The life insurance man is here. No, it'd be a lot easier to like the beer guy's here. Okay, let's go see him.
Yeah.
All right, so this changes all the time because social media changes all the time. The apps are changing. Facebook just announced this huge algorithm change a couple weeks ago. Right now, at this moment, and I know you're not on a ton, what is your favorite social media app to be on, business-wise?
That is a hard one too. I mean, I don't know if you consider the internet social media, but the internet is being out on the internet's where, I mean, that's our business. I mean, I use that a lot in researching about clients, and if you get somebody that says, here's my business, and you go out and do research on their business using, I use Google a lot. I mean, That sounds pretty simple.
No, it is.
But it's amazing. I had a client today that I had to send in an address for his daughter, but he didn't give me the zip code. And I went out on Google and just typed in the address, and I said zip code, and bang, here comes up the zip code. It's just amazing what you can find on the internet. And so that's good. I mean, that's knowledge in hand. If you're going to write disability on a business, to understand that business and what they do, the tools that you have out there on the internet are amazing.
Yeah, so I think what's pretty cool is, I don't know if you've ever followed him, and we talk about Gary Vaynerchuk a lot, and it is true. I completely agree with him. Like, social media is just like, think of the word in and of itself. Social, it's just about interacting with other people, and media can mean so many different things, right? All it is what he says, it's a slang term for the state of the internet, which is it, right? So just because you're not on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or whatever that might be, it is social media. The whole thing's social media. Plus, most of the time, you're in some platform, right? You're just talking about you're in the Google platform. That's part of social media. Right. You're interacting with people. You're going to their website and you're interacting with their websites possibly and sending an email or making a phone call. It's all part of it. So, no, I think that's an awesome answer. All right, so you get to choose one, a book or the Kindle app.
Well, believe it or not, I have migrated from books to Kindle. Not necessarily Kindle like
the device.
I used to like to read a lot, but I like an audio book. A lot of times if I'm coming back from someplace and it's after 5 or 6 o'clock, I have the books on my phone now that I can listen to on Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And so being able to listen to those books is very relaxing. So I really gone to the online book type thing versus reading an actual hard copy.
Yeah, so you took that far, so maybe there's a 3-part question to that. It's a book, a Kindle, or an Audible version of it, which kind of leads into the next question. If you had a choice, one or the other, would you read a blog or would you listen to a podcast?
I'd probably listen to a podcast because that's something I can do while I'm moving to someplace else.
Yeah, which, by the way, goes into the time discussion we were having before. It's like, how can you become more productive with your time? And that's listening's become so big because you can work out, you can do your yard work. I wouldn't be doing my yard work, obviously, but you could be driving down the road and listen to a podcast. So I'd agree. We do it all, and I like it all. I love reading. I love listening too, but that's a good one. All right, last one, most important one. If you could only have, and we might know this answer for you, but maybe not. Maybe you can surprise us. If you could only have one sports team to root for the rest of your life, what sports team would that be?
It's Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
That's it. Well, Mitch, those are. I expected that one, but I really do appreciate your time that you spent with us. Again, back to the whole time thing. You provide a lot of insight. We want to have you on here more often. Maybe to make this like a weekly or monthly special. We bring Mitch in for 5 minutes, and maybe the next time you can tell us jokes or something because you have a lot of good jokes.
Oh yeah, no, I got plenty of those too. Yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah, we got to keep it. I think PG-13. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but so you think about your joke. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, just stand up, right? I mean, that's you got a career in that.
Well,
so if the hot dog stand doesn't work,
I like stupid jokes. So I'm the king of stupid jokes. So my kids all go, "Dad, you need new material." So
do you have any stupid jokes off the top of your head right now? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I knew you were going to ask me that. You should have told me before the meeting.
I should have. Don't worry. We can edit that out. No, we just leave it in because it's like, but it's true because if you watch a stand-up comedian and they practice their stuff for days, and all they're doing is telling stories, by the way. So it's no different than someone in business. And if you hear a stand-up comedian tell them, like, they're consulting business people on how to tell stories. I mean, there's people taking classes at comedy classes to help in their business, which is pretty amazing stuff. But they practice, and some of them can probably do it on the spot. But you're just funny in general, Mitch. So it was good to have you regardless, even if you didn't have a joke for us. So thank you, Mitch, and good luck in Burlington. Stay safe. Don't text and drive, and we'll chat with you next time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mitch, it was absolutely awesome having you on this podcast. From the sales experience you bring to the table to your constant reference of your favorite football player, Tom Brady, we were all better off allowing you to speak on sales topics. The perspectives from Mitch and this episode as a whole are now perspectives you as a business owner and entrepreneur can use for yourself. And for that, Mitch, thank you. And for any entrepreneur with questions on insurance planning, feel free to reach out to Mitch. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can contact me on Twitter at Eric_Kaz or with the same name on Instagram, or you can find us at KazSource.com with links to us on the different social networks. Thank you for listening to our KazSource podcast, Entrepreneur Perspectives, building and protecting your business one podcast at a time. Until next time, we're out of here. This podcast exists in large part because of KazCM, the content marketing business inside KazSource Inc. KazCM is excited to bring the content marketing services used at KazSource to you. Learn more by visiting KazCM.com. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. It's a big deal to us. We hope you found value in it, and if you did, we would be incredibly grateful if you gave us a review on iTunes. Remember to subscribe to this podcast, and feel free to share it with anyone you know. More than anything, thank you again for listening. We appreciate it.